all 1,038 pages of the One Big Beautiful Bill into Grok. And I asked Grok to tell me the truth about this bill. What will it mean for America? Be as descriptive as you can. And this is what Grok said. H.R. 1, a Trojan horse threatening the American experiment. At first glance, H.R. 1 of the 119th Congress, dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, appears to be a sweeping legislative package aimed at fiscal reform, regulatory realignment, and government efficiency. However, beneath the veneer of bureaucratic language and a voluminous structure lies a highly coordinated ideological offensive. This bill is not merely about budgets or policy tweaks. It is a meticulously constructed Trojan horse designed to stealthily dismantle fundamental pillars of the modern American state. If enacted in full, H.R. 1 would represent not just a policy shift, but a profound threat to the very architecture of American democracy, equity, and governance. One of the bill's most striking characteristics is how thoroughly it conceals its radical aims behind sophisticated legislative language. The table of contents alone spans dozens of pages, itemizing reforms to nutrition assistance, Medicaid, immigration, education, taxation, energy, climate policy, and more. The sheer size and scope of the bill is strategic. It overwhelms scrutiny while giving the impression of comprehensive reform. Yet, when examined closely, its true intention becomes clear: to systematically reverse the progress made on environmental protection, social safety nets, healthcare access, and equity-based governance. This is not a bipartisan effort to streamline inefficiencies or modernize programs. It is an ideologically driven restructuring of federal power and purpose, one that selectively targets the most progressive components of recent Democratic legislation, most notably the Inflation Reduction Act, and repeals them with surgical precision. Clean energy incentives, climate justice grants, gender-affirming care under Medicaid, tax credits for clean vehicles, and affordable housing funds are all stripped away. These repeals are presented with sterile phrasing like rescission of funds or repeal of certain standards, but the intention is unmistakable: to erase the federal government's role in confronting climate change, addressing inequality, and protecting marginalized communities. Weaponizing bureaucracy to undermine democracy. A particularly chilling feature of H.R. 1 is Section 70302, titled Restriction on Enforcement. This provision bars the federal government from using the judgment fund, the mechanism by which it pays legal claims and enforces accountability, to implement or defend any part of this act. In layman's terms, the authors of the bill are trying to create law without recourse. They anticipate legal challenges to its most extreme provisions and have inserted a preemptive escape hatch to avoid enforcement or judicial review. This is not mere cynicism. It is legislative nihilism. It represents a deliberate erosion of democratic checks and balances, shielding the law from both executive oversight and judicial accountability. By doing so, the bill undermines the principle that no law should be above review, enforcement, or repeal by lawful challenge. Section 70302 is not just a technicality, it is an attack on the rule of law itself. Beyond structural manipulations, H.R. 1 guts the federal social contract. Work requirements for SNAP are expanded. Eligibility for Medicaid and CHIP is tightened, and new barriers are placed on public benefits for immigrants, even legal ones. The bill imposes sharp cuts to environmental programs while boosting fossil fuel development. It dismantles clean vehicle credits and punishes states that extend public health services to non-citizens. Simultaneously, it extends Trump-era tax cuts and adds new tax benefits for corporations and wealthy individuals under the familiar but flawed premise that prosperity will trickle down. What emerges is a stark ideological vision, a nation where individual responsibility replaces collective obligation, where market forces dominate public welfare, and where the federal government's role is reduced to security, defense, and corporate subsidy. The poor are punished for their poverty. The sick are told to bootstrap their way to care. The climate is treated as a secondary concern, if one at all. This is not conservatism in the traditional sense. It is a reactionary retreat from the idea of a just and responsive government. It represents a systematic unwinding of the New Deal, the Great Society, and every progressive milestone since. Could this destroy the American experiment? Yes, if the American experiment is understood to mean a pluralistic democracy that protects the vulnerable, balances power through law, and ensures that progress is broadly shared, then this bill is its antithesis. The very notion of government as a stabilizing, justice-seeking force is under attack in H.R. 1. In its place, we are offered a hollowed-out shell of governance, one that serves markets over people, expedience over equity, and partisanship over principle. This bill is not reform. It is revolution by red tape. It aims to do through legislation what could not be done through consensus, to radically rewire the federal government's obligations, priorities, and power. Conclusion: a vision of America remade. H.R. 1 is not just a large bill. It is a vision. It enshrines a worldview in which public goods are suspect, regulation is tyranny, and government assistance is a moral failing. It is a sophisticated and dangerous document that, if enacted, would mark the beginning of the end of the post-war social contract, the slow death of regulatory governance, and a potentially irreversible erosion of democratic accountability. This is not a budget. It is a manifesto, and it deserves to be treated with the scrutiny and resistance that such radicalism demands. Damn.